Stop! What are you doing?
Don't give her water.
Are you crazy?
You let a child die because you thought help only wears one face. And tonight the truth is about to break you. The story begins with a clock screaming inside a quiet room. Every second, a small hammer against a fragile life. The billionaire's baby lay still beneath white lights, skin pale, breath shallow, heart slipping away while the world outside waited for a miracle that refused to come. Doctors stood frozen, hands stained with effort and fear. Machines glowed with numbers that fell instead of rose. The father, a man who owned towers and roads and futures, stared at his child with a face emptied of power. Money had always answered him. Tonight, it stayed silent. In the corner of the room stood a young girl no one had invited to matter. She was poor. She was black. She was small, thin, and wrapped in a borrowed jacket that smelled faintly of soap and cold air. Her hair was pulled back with care, her eyes steady, but filled with something deeper than fear. She stood near the wall as if she had learned early how to take up as little space as possible. No one asked her name. A doctor shook his head, slow and heavy. Another whispered words that felt final even before they landed. The father's knees bent, not from weakness, but from shock that the world could say no to him. The girl took one quiet step forward. Someone told her to stay back. She did not raise her voice. She did not argue. She simply waited, hands clasped, breath even, as if she had been waiting her whole life for this exact moment. She looked at the baby, and something inside her remembered. Her name was Amani. She had learned early what it meant to listen to bodies when they spoke without words. She grew up in a small apartment where the walls held heat and the windows let in noise. Her mother worked nights and slept days, hands rough but gentle, voice soft even when tired. When neighbors got sick, when children fell and cried, when elders whispered pain they could not afford to treat, Amani watched her mother act with calm care. She learned to feel a pulse with 2 fingers. She learned how breathing changes before it stops. She learned that fear makes hands shake, and calm makes them sure. When Amani was 9, her mother collapsed in their kitchen. The room smelled of burned rice and metal. Amani pressed her ear to her mother's chest and felt a rhythm breaking apart. She called for help that took too long to arrive. She learned that day how thin the line is between life and loss, and how often help arrives late. She carried that memory like a stone in her pocket. Years later, she volunteered wherever she could. Shelters, clinics, long nights with short supplies. She learned not from books alone, but from watching, from doing, from listening. She learned that healing often comes from hands that do not look important. The night she ended up in that hospital was not planned. She had come with a woman from her building, someone who had helped her with food when money ran out. She waited quietly while the woman was treated, eyes wandering, senses alert. That was when alarms rang, and the room filled with urgency. She followed without thinking. Drawn by a pull she trusted. Now she stood before a baby slipping away. While the world argued with itself, the lead doctor spoke about risk and rules and what could not be done. The words piled up like walls. The father listened but heard nothing. His mind was screaming. Amani saw the baby's chest struggle. She saw the color and the tiny lips fade. She saw a pattern she had seen before, one that meant time was almost gone. She stepped forward again. A nurse blocked her path, not unkind, just tired and afraid of breaking protocol. "This is not the time," the look said. "This is not your place." Amani lowered her gaze, then lifted it again. "Steady. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is not doing anything." The room felt thick, heavy with silence and doubt. People looked away. No one wanted to be responsible for hope. Amani spoke softly, words simple, careful, respectful. She said she had seen this before. She said there was something they had not tried. She said the baby was telling them what he needed. The doctor dismissed her without cruelty, only certainty. They had done everything. They had followed every step. There was nothing left. The father looked at her then, really looked for the first time. He saw a child facing him with eyes older than her years. He saw no greed, no fear, only resolve. "What do you know that they don't?" his face seemed to ask. AMA. It did not claim greatness. She did not promise miracles. She said only that sometimes bodies forget how to fight, and they need to be reminded. The doctor hesitated, caught between training and instinct. The room waited AMA, and I asked for permission, not command. She asked to try something gentle, something that could do no harm. She asked for minutes they were about to lose anyway. Silence answered her. Then the father nodded once. "Do it." Amani moved with care, hands steady, despite the weight of every eye. She adjusted the baby's position just slightly. She guided breath with rhythm, learned from nights of watching life flicker in return. She spoke to the baby, not with words of command, but with calm presence, as if reminding him he was not alone. Her touch was light, her focus complete. The room changed. The machines did not jump. The doctors did not cheer. But something shifted, subtle as dawn. The baby's chest rose a little stronger. The line on the screen hesitated, then steadied. Color returned, slow but real. A nurse gasped before she could stop herself. The doctor leaned in, disbelief breaking into awe. Minutes passed like hours. The baby held on. Amani stepped back, hands shaking now that the work was done. She did not smile. She did not wait for praise. She simply watched, ready to step in again if needed. The father's breath broke free of his chest. Tears came unchecked, washing power away until only gratitude remained. The doctor spoke her name. Finally asking it, Amani answered, voice barely above a whisper. The room filled with a different kind of silence. One made of respect. Later, as the baby slept, safe for now, the hospital buzzed with quiet talk. People asked where she had learned what she knew. They asked who taught her. They asked why no one had listened sooner. Amani said nothing harsh. She only said that wisdom does not always wear a badge. One of the nurses repeated the words later, and they spread. Wisdom does not always wear a badge. The billionaire sat beside his child long after the lights dimmed. He watched the rise and fall of a chest that almost stopped. He thought of how close he had come to losing everything that mattered. He asked that Amani be found when she returned. He stood, unsure how to speak to someone who had given him more than money ever could. He offered reward. He offered opportunity. He offered doors that had always been closed to her. Amani listened, grateful but grounded. She accepted help that would let her learn more, do more, reach further. But she did not bow. She said one thing that stayed with him. Sometimes the strongest help comes from those who know what it means to need it. The story did not end in that room. News spread. Careful at first, then wider. Not of a miracle child alone, but of the girl no one saw until it was too late to ignore her. People argued about training and rules and chance. Others listened to what the moment revealed. In small clinics and big hospitals, conversations began. About listening. About humility. About the danger of believing expertise only lives in certain bodies. Amani returned to her life, changed but unchanged. She still waited for buses. She still helped neighbors. She studied harder, driven by purpose sharpened that night. She visited the baby once more months later. He reached for her finger with a grip full of life. His father watched with quiet reverence. No cameras. No speeches. Just a shared understanding. Silent dignity is not weakness. It is strength waiting to be recognized. The hospital corridor where it all happened became just another hallway. A reminder that help can come from anywhere. That listening can save lives. And that night when rules met humanity, a young girl chose courage without noise. In the end, it was not money or an status that saved the child. It was presence. It was care. It was the unthinkable act of trusting. Someone the world had taught itself to overlook. The lesson lingered. Gentle, but firm. Respect the quiet. Honor the unseen. Listen when life whispers. If this story moved you, share where you are watching from and what part stayed with you. Add your voice to the silence that matters. And subscribe for more stories that honor the strength we often miss.